What up, everybody? Let's see. Yeah, you guys can hear me. Good, good, good. How's everybody doing? I see you in the comments. How much longer? Shut up, Andy. Shut up, Andy. Um, we see you guys all here. Glad you guys are all here. We got a show we're going to be going over today. Got some stuff we're going to talk about. Got the Trump-Hannity live interview. I was just watching some clips on the Hannity live interview. It's probably not going to be very long. I'm not muted. Shush your face, free. So yeah, the Hannity, I don't know what to expect because Hannity has a few other guests tonight per a video I watched earlier. What up, Zach? So we'll see what we're gonna get. It's also on Air Force One, which I didn't know until 2 minutes ago. So there's that. We're gonna touch on a few other topics. Let me see. We got we're gonna kind of touch on the tariffs. Yeah, the video so far so good. Don't jinx it, Andy. But we're going to touch on the tariffs a little bit because it looks like China's caving. I also wonder if it's just a little bit of a bluff so they can just pump in a whole bunch of stuff into the country and not really have to worry about the tariffs for the next 90 days because that was the agreement. We're going to touch on Big Pharma and the executive order, along with how useful the GOP and all of Congress is. Because we have all of Congress that just sits there and does nothing, and Trump has to sign executive orders because you have Mike Johnson, John Thune not doing anything that you voted for. Voted for a red House and a red Senate, and they are doing bullshit. Passing 5 bills in 100 days. Absolutely useless is what Congress is. And they always have been, so it's not much of a surprise. But we all hoped that there might be something to come out of this. But it sounds like we just have a whole bunch of Pam Bondies in government right now. So those are the topics we got to cover. Oh, Diddy. We can't forget about the Diddy trial. Diddy, we have to touch on the Diddy trial. Cassie hit the stands today. Brought some nasty stuff. We're not going to, well, yeah, we're going to do the Diddy trial in those details in a specific show to cover those details. So if you don't want to hear it, you don't have to hear it. But we'll give you some basics updates on what's going on with the Diddy trial. It's already getting gross, guys. It is not conversations you're having at the dinner table. I'll tell you that right now. It is nasty on what is going on at during the Diddy trial. Trump knows they're useless, hence the ridiculous amount of EOs. Yes, normally I am ranting and raving and upset about the EOs, but I'm taking a back seat because I understand it's only way we can get some things done, but it's just temporary. Uh-oh. Yep, there was a light freeze. Was that? Did you guys see that freeze or was that on my side? That could have been my side. Anyways, let's get into this. So share this out. Everybody share this out for me. Let's get it out there and get other people in here. The Hannity interview will be in 23 minutes, so we will touch on that. Let's jump into the tariffs. So with China and the tariffs, the thing that's interesting about this, they agreed to a 90-day. Where did my notes go? Dang it. Where did my notes go? Did I put them on another sheet? All right. Well, there goes my notes for the tariffs, but we're going to wing it a little bit. So there's a 90-day decrease on the tariffs, and so U.S. have taken their tariffs from the 145%, I believe, down to 30% for the next 90 days, which is decent. And then we will see China's decreasing theirs from 125 down to 10%. So we are back. You have a YouTube channel. You're commenting on YouTube, you crackhead. But the China's tariffs are back down to what it was before Trump took office the second time. Our tariffs are still a little bit higher than normal. So the question I have is what happened to being reciprocal? U.S. tariffs are 30%. China's are 10%. I thought we were matching them. This is where the game starts getting weird, guys. Like, I understand it's China. I do. I never thought they would actually want to really even negotiate. That's where I think there's different games going on here. But so we're just charging more tariffs now because that's what we do. it's a little weird. The wording and the messaging and actions are not lining up with the current party and what is being done. Not really sure why the US is charging more when we're running and saying that we're going to be doing reciprocal tariffs, but we're not doing reciprocal tariffs. We're charging more. So just FYI, I don't know what's going on with that. That doesn't seem to be aligning with the messaging we're telling the American people, and no one's talking about it. But it's okay because we're going to charge them more tariffs, but China's charging us less tariffs. Like, okay. Was now that one's a good one, Andy. That one's a good one. I got to scroll down to get to that comment. We got to highlight that one. Extra 20% accounts for child labor offsets. Deal. That's a good one. So yeah, I like that China's at the table, and I will admit I did not expect this. I expected China to go blow for blow, and then us end up eating the cost, and then Americans are paying $2,000 for a cheap 32-inch TV. So it's nice to see some things going. How do I? Oh God. So overall, it seems like the tariffs in negotiations seem to be working across the board. Completely unexpected from my end. I did not expect that. I don't see China as very good at negotiating or wanting to move usually in these situations. So there must be more to this. And so I'm going to be a little hesitant to say that they are fully working and it's getting everything we want until this 90-day pause is over and we actually have something concrete. Because right now we don't have anything concrete. The only thing we have is a verbal agreement, and we know how that works between two governments. It never works. Hence the ceasefires that we've had at multiple countries. It lasted less than 24 hours, and then all of a sudden they're back to bombing each other again, and then we got to redo it all over again. So we'll see how this plays out with the government. With the China tariffs, let's jump into the big pharma and the price controls. I think that's a little bit of what's coming along here. Is with big pharma, since they make a lot of our drugs and they ship them here, that Trump is taking a huge stance and a huge attack on a lot of the stuff that we're bringing in, along with the pharmaceutical drugs hurts a lot of Americans paying the price that we're doing. Now, I don't see that Congress is ever going to do anything. And Andy and I talked in the back and forth in the comments on a post the other day. Why in the hell can we not get this codified and get this put into law? Because an executive order is only temporary. We all know this. We don't need to rehash that out. But why are we saying this executive order is great when it's only going to be there for 3 years? And if you don't believe me, and you say that this executive order, which there is somebody in my comments trying to say that executive orders are not temporary, freaking nut job. No, they are temporary because the next administration will change them, especially if they're for the American people and to be able to make our lives better, because Congress does not want that. Congress wants to make their lives better, not anybody in America. They're selfish. They only care about themselves and the special interests that they represent. That is all they want, which is why the GOP won't do shit about anything to codify any of the executive orders that Donald Trump's trying to get done. They are just sitting on their ass. Everybody is talking about this big, beautiful bill, and we might sign it on July July 4th and all of this stuff. No, let's just get it done now. Stop kicking the can down the road. Let's get moving and get some things going. And we don't need a big, beautiful bill. We all want small bills that are just simple. We don't need 1,500-page bill. We don't need a big, beautiful bill. We need a clean, precise bill that is for Americans. That is what we need. We don't need all of this bullshit that you're going to end up hiding all of the fluff and all of the money that is going to go into your special interests. That is what they're going to do with this big, beautiful bill. Because we know that that's what Congress does. But John Thune, the majority leader, is already talking, saying, "Oh no, we can't really do that. It wouldn't pass. Like, we're not going to be able to do that." Trump threatened General So with tariffs. I'm not surprised. Freedom Coach says, are you already planning to lose the next president? Yeah. Right now, we're on course to lose 2026. And if we lose 2026, 2028 is gone. I've been saying that all over the internet the last few days. 2026, if we don't get our shit together, 2026 is gone. And so you can say goodbye to 2028. And it won't really matter. Because right now, if the Republicans lose 2026 and we lose seats, think about what they can't even get done right now. And then you lose a portion of your majority or all of your majority in 2026. Then you're not going to get anything done. So the 5 bills we got done, we're going to go down to 0. And so Trump's just going to be signing an executive order. And this is what the left has been claiming all presidential campaign is Trump's going to become a dictator because they're going to make him useless, a lame duck president, and he only can sign executive orders, which is playing right into their cards in this situation. But overall, John Thune is saying that we're not even going to try to get the big pharma bill into codified into law because it's not going to pass. But John Thune is also one of the biggest recipients of big pharma donor money. John Thune has been receiving a lot of donations from big pharma. So of course he doesn't want to be putting a bill on the table to be voted on. And this is why also I keep hearing it this week. Multiple people have mentioned it over the last few days. Anna Paulina put the bill to end the Patriot Act. Okay, great. Now let's vote on it. But it's not going to. It's just like we have from Mike Lee. He has an end the Fed bill. Is that being voted on right now? That's been sitting on the table collecting dust for how many months? He put that up when he was at the Libertarian Convention. He got the bill put up then. Congress is doing absolutely nothing. And I don't care what political party you support or what political party you put next to your name, or you say I'm red, I vote all red, I vote Republican, or I vote Democrat. You're what's wrong. Your party is failing you and you're still backing them. Why in the hell is the Republican Party? They have all of the power in Congress and they have passed 5 bills, maybe 6. They haven't done anything to serve you. Nothing. But you're still happy with what's going on? This is how you get misled by government. This is how you get misled by all of these people, and you start buying into the system that says they're going to save you from the problems they're creating. You're living in an abusive relationship. You have to break up with the government and start telling them to fuck off. It's got to start happening sometime, guys. Like, when are we going to start growing up and putting on our big boy pants and start standing up against the system and saying, you are not representing me. You are no longer representing your constituents. Because I don't see anybody doing that. I see everybody making excuses. Everybody is trying to justify why they are doing what they're doing. No one wants to hold anybody accountable. Only 3 to 5% written bills even make it to the House floor, much less than the Senate. Exactly, Terry. Exactly. That's why I don't get excited when there is a bill produced. If there's a bill produced, I don't care. The chances of it getting voted on is almost 0 because it's going to benefit us. Until it's bloated and it has 1,500 extra pages that don't even need to be in it, then they don't vote on it. Until they can actually fill it with all of the shit, then it just sits there and collects dust. J-Rev says, Casey, you think they put the bills out just to show they're on our side, but really they know the bill is going to fail? Yes. There are multiple congressmen, and Thomas Massey is one of them. He has called it out many times over the years, and I want to say Rand Paul has done too, Mike Lee has done too, to where bills have been produced and they just go out there and sit there and they never get voted on because some people believe, oh, it's actually produced, it's going to do something. No, they don't. And they know it's just going to sit there and do nothing. It's just going to do nothing. It gives people some false hope that government is going to come and save you. The government is going to do all of that. When they're not, guys. This is why we have to start taking back control of our systems. And you can't do that from the federal level anymore. And absolutely not. Voting for them and trying to get your president and the right congressman is not working anymore. They're not serving you. They're not representing you. They're only doing the things to be able to continue the dog and pony show that exists. That's all they're doing. And then every 4 years, they come back around and be like, hey, look at me. I helped you. You should vote for me again. And so this whole thing is absolutely insane. I've been in numerous conversations / arguments over the last few days over a lot of this. And by the way, hang on, let me pull up, make sure I'm keeping an eye on Fox News for when the Hannity interview starts. But overall, when are we going to start taking accountability and start going after and electing and representing, getting people in our local communities elected and start pushing to build locally so we can start fighting back against the gigantic federal government? When are we going to start doing that? Because right now, if we don't start now, it's going to be too late. If we get the worst case scenario, say worst case scenario, 2026, we lose some seats. It still stays red and blue, red for both House and Senate for 2026. And then 2028, we still don't have anything for JD Vance to run on. You don't have anything for JD Vance to run on in 2028 because he had a political, his VP career was just like Kamala Harris's. Then he has nothing to run on to get reelected in 2020. Well, to get elected in 2028 as president. And then it's going to turn over to the Democrats. That will be the worst case scenario. And how bad do you think things will be at that point? Because we're not fixing what's going on right now, guys. Nothing is getting fixed. It's got a Band-Aid on it. You insert a Democrat president, he will undo everything Trump just did. Everything. And it will all be put back to normal. So how is that what's good for America? Everybody was saying America was winning yesterday because of the big announcement with the executive order on Big Pharma. If America is winning, you are living in denial because it is only short term. It is only for the next few years. And then we're going to be back to the status quo. That's not winning. And everybody talks about the children and we're doing this for the children and the future of our country. Nothing of what has been achieved so far is going to outlast the presidency of Donald Trump. Nothing. So when are we going to fix that? Because right now, you don't have Congress that is going to help you. Congress is not going to help you. You have to start getting people locally and pushing back against the federal government. We have to start doing that. That is the only way we can start making things better. Is taking back control and power and slowly taking this back from the grips of the gigantic system of our corrupt federal government. We are winning the innings, but not the game. Yeah, that's another way of putting it. Well said, Andy. If Dems get control in 26, Republicans are done. Yeah, I don't think they'll get control in 26. I think the momentum will still ride high. They probably will lose some of their majority, but I don't think they'll lose the House or the Senate. I think they'll still keep it. But it's hard to say because right now we're not on a good path. Congress isn't doing anything, and it's all being done in an executive order. Who knows what legal battles this big pharma executive order is going to go through? Because you know that industry has money. So who knows what's going to hold that one up, if it is even going to go in. But yeah, this is sketchy, guys. I know it's a lot of doom in this one because I'm a little heated over my arguments and conversations over the last couple days. Because everybody keeps saying these executive orders means we're winning. And I don't understand it. What makes you think this is winning? It's not. We have to pull our heads out of our asses and start getting our ass to work and getting the right people to represent us. And that's at all levels locally. Zach says we got to get out and vote in the midterms. I agree, Zach. We'll see if the Republicans do. They didn't show up on April 1st in Wisconsin. We know that. We know that. Andy says it doesn't matter if we win 26. They're not doing anything anyways. I agree. But there could be some good people running in 26 that we could platform and we could get up there and they might represent us. We could get another Thomas Massey up there. That could help. That could help. It's not going to solve it because Thomas Massey can make all of the right decisions in the world, but he's outnumbered. Doesn't matter what he does. Same with Rand Paul. Same with Mike Lee. Name your favorite politician. They're not going to do anything. And Free, you nailed it here. Primaries are huge. They are 100% huge. That is where most of the political, where they push out the people that you want to represent you is usually pushed out in the primary to where they don't even have a chance at the position. And so you got to get involved, and primary voting varies in every state, every district. You might have to be registered as a Republican to vote in the primary for Republicans. Here in Utah, I'm registered as unaffiliated. I can't vote in the Republican primary. And so you have to know the legalities around it. I generally don't really participate in much of the Republican primary because when it comes to the decisions that are made here, I don't generally align with a lot of them anyways. So it doesn't matter. The only one I missed out on is my potential governor, which he still ran last year and was just a write-in and ran a pretty solid write-in campaign. But we have to start getting engaged. And so, Free, thank you for mentioning primaries. Primaries are probably the most important part and the most overlooked part of the election. I didn't say I'm non-binary. I said I'm unaffiliated, Andy. But let me show this to you guys so you guys know. Well, it's playing a commercial. We'll wait. But overall, that has been a lot of my frustration lately, guys, is where in the hell is Congress working for us? They're supposed to be on the side of the president. And so we should be getting everything done that Donald Trump wants, right? If he has the House and Senate, everything should be going in his favor. 5 bills in 100 days? That is the worst in presidential history. Trump isn't even my favorite Trump. What does that mean? But we got to start doing some more shit to get other people running somehow. So if any of you, I will happily host and get something going. If we need to platform some people, interview them and get their voices out there, message me candidates or introduce me to people that you would like to see get their voices getting heard on running for local seats, any other school boards, city councils, county councils, whatever, all of the different positions locally. Message me, DM me on X, and we'll set something up. We got to start getting these people their voices out there to where others know about them, because the average American only votes for the names they recognize. And so if they are going to keep doing that, we have to get other names out there so people actually recognize the ones that will represent you. Congress is the middle management part of the company. I agree. Looks like Jesse Waters is Jesse Waters is wrapping up right now. So we will be dealing with Hannity here in just a minute. Let me share the screen. I might have to do the overlay. That's okay. We'll make this happen. And then come here. This one. No, hang on. Look what I did, guys. Look what I did. This is why we can't have nice things. And that moved. So let's go with this one. Sorry, guys. I'm moving things around to try to hide the Fox logo so I don't have to deal with the garbage. But it's not going to work today because they moved things around. That's all right. We will go back here and we will share it this way. So we are just waiting for the Hannity interview, but throw some questions at me while we're waiting, guys, and we will see. We'll talk about it. Oh, DIDDY trial. Let's touch on that real quick as we're waiting. And then I want to change this to this view, and then we want to move this to here. There we go. That's how we'll hide the logo. That's how we'll do it. So with you guys, like, what topics do you guys want me to talk about real quick while I pull up the DIDDY trial link? And then I want to touch on a couple things that was discussed today. Cassie was on the stand and gave some interesting stuff. Did the QoS fix the video? I have QoS turned on, but I also have a few other things turned on. And I didn't want to mess with anything since I got it working last night. I'll report back because I'll do individual testing to figure out what it was. I can send you a list of people that are being primaried so far and who is running against them. That works, Terry. We'll take that. I mostly want to hear from what people, because I don't have time to go and do all of the research on everybody, but let's turn this up.
Historic Daria, we are in Saudi Arabia.
Give me a thumbs up.
It is 9 o'clock. But first, let's set the scene.
Yes, I did.
Early this morning,
yes,
I got a hostage from Gaza. Nation status as he made a major breakthrough on that deal. Also, he announced a major trade breakthrough with China that sent markets soaring. And this was all before he even embarked on his Middle East trip. Now, today in Saudi Arabia, President Trump signed a number of bilateral agreements with the Saudi Crown Prince, including a commitment from Saudi Arabia for a whopping $600 billion investment in the United States. Now, that will also likely grow even bigger over the coming months as the Crown Prince is now working to raise over $1 trillion. Now, keep in mind, this is all happening as both world leaders managed to convene some of the most powerful business leaders, and they were powerful from all over the world today. And that's not all. During his address in Riyadh earlier today, President Trump urged Saudi Arabia to join the Abraham Accords and recognize Israel. Now, this would be a massive step towards potential lasting peace once and for all in the world's most volatile regions. Take a look.
With the historic Abraham Accords that we're so proud of, all the momentum was aimed at peace, and it aimed very successfully. It's been an amazing thing, the Abraham Accords, and it's my fervent hope, wish, and even my dream that Saudi Arabia, a place I have such respect for, especially over the last fairly short period of time, what you've been able to do, but we'll soon be joining the Abraham Accords. I think it'll be a tremendous tribute to your country, and it will be something that's really going to be very important for the future of the Middle East.
Now, let's be clear, this would be a major step forward for Saudi Arabia, the United States, the entire region. But despite a slew of recent accomplishments, groundbreaking diplomacy, the legacy state-run media mob still managed to find their new obsession, an offer from the government of Qatar for a Boeing 747 jumbo jet to serve as Air Force One until the end of President Trump's term. By the way, Boeing couldn't get the job done, a temporary replacement. The current Air Force One is now 40 years in service. Now, here's the problem with the legacy media mob. They know nothing about the history of the relationship and the partnership between the U.S. and Qatar. The left never seemed to care. For example, did you know that that Qatar has spent $8 billion on our military base in the region. As a matter of fact, the largest U.S. military base in the entire Middle East, or the $26 billion in active government-to-government defense sales with Qatar under foreign military sales system. Now, that makes Qatar the second largest partner in the world. The only country that has more sales under this system is where we are tonight, in Saudi Arabia. Now, neither the Saudis nor Qatar would be as safe as they are today without these partnerships, without these defense agreements with the United States. Now, we go into this very clear-eyed. While there is a united purpose in this friendship, Middle Eastern countries, they need to make the full pivot towards the Abraham Accords. That should be everybody's hope. Become an ally of Israel and an ally of the West. Reject radicalism once and for all. Don't turn a blind eye to extremism when they know it exists. Now, they might not have the military might or the desire. Everybody knows that Iran is the #1 state sponsor of terror. And the president had some very clear and harsh words for Iran during his address earlier today. Let's take a look at that.
If Iran's leadership rejects this olive branch and continues to attack their neighbors, then we will have no choice but to inflict massive maximum pressure, drive Iranian oil exports to zero like I did before. If you know that, they were a virtually bankrupt country because of what I did. They had no money for terror. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, and take all action required to stop the regime from ever having a nuclear weapon. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon.
But make no mistake, we're getting closer to this in terms of the partnership that would maintain peace and stability for years to come. If Iran decides to come on board, fine. If they don't, they know what the consequences will be. Now, the president has been the biggest champion of peace, not only in the Middle East, in Europe, but around the world. And it's been interesting traveling with President Trump on Air Force One to the Middle East. I'm grateful for the up-close, unprecedented look into how this administration gets so much done. I think everybody on the plane maybe slept 2 hours. Now, as we've made our approach into Riyadh in a show of solidarity with the United States, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia did, in fact, send up fighter jets to escort Air Force One to its landing, where, by the way, on the tarmac, United States flags were intertwined with Saudi flags, an elaborate setup awaiting President Trump. And after departing the airport, U.S. flags lined the streets of Riyadh as President Trump made his way to the Saudi royal court. And following his state visit at the Saudi royal court today, President Trump delivered an address highlighting the progress being made toward peace in the Middle East. Take a look at some of the highlights.
With this historic state visit, we celebrate more than 80 years of close partnership between the United States and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Ever since President Franklin Roosevelt met with King Solomon's father, King Abdul Aziz, aboard the USS Quincy in 1945, the U.S.-Saudi relationship has been a bedrock of security and prosperity. Today, we reaffirm this important bond, and we take the next steps to make our relationship closer, stronger, and more powerful than ever before. I've come this afternoon to talk about the bright future of the Middle East, but first, let me begin by sharing the abundance of good news from a place called America. In less than 4 months, our new administration has achieved more than most other administrations accomplish in 4 years or even 8 years. Before our eyes, a new generation of leaders is transcending the ancient conflicts of tired divisions of the past and forging a future where the Middle East is defined by commerce, not chaos. I'm here today not merely to condemn the past chaos of Iran's leaders, but to offer them a new path and a much better path toward a far better and more hopeful future. In recent years, far too many American presidents have been afflicted with the notion that it's our job to look into the souls of foreign leaders and use U.S. policy to dispense justice for their sins. If the responsible nations of this region seize this moment, put aside your differences and focus on the interests that unite you, then all of humanity will soon be amazed at what they will see.
Now, here's part one of my exclusive interview with President Trump aboard Air Force One. Mr. President.
Hi, thank you very much.
Okay, by the way, we're on a beautiful Air Force One. Not a bad plane.
Not bad at all. Not bad at all. It's a beautiful plane, and we're doing a lot of business. We have a lot of good things happening.
Okay, so this is an amazing week so far. You get a deal with China. I'm just going to list it, and then we get into detail. India and Pakistan played a big role. Hopefully, the peace stands. You slash prescription drug prices. Most favored nation, the American people will get first dibs in terms of prices. The last American hostage has been released. We're on this trip to Saudi Arabia, Qatar. There's not much going on in your life, is there?
Well, I've been busy, but I've enjoyed it because we're getting things accomplished. We're getting things done. You know, you can have times when you're working very hard and not getting things done. That happens too. But we're getting a lot done. I don't think there's ever been a little period like this with the potential nuclear war. And two countries, they have very good leaders, people I know very well. And, you know, it was a very important process. We got involved with India and Pakistan.
You got involved early. Can you give us a little insight what happened behind the scenes? How were you able?
Well, I didn't like what was happening. And you hear, you know, they're two very strongly nuclear countries, very, very powerful amount of nuclear too, serious stuff. And if that ever started, boy, that's the beginning of something that could be really bad. Even a minimal, you could have millions of people killed. And with one shot, two shots. And I just thought it was something we could get involved in. And I did a good job. Marco did a good job. And JD did a good job. We sort of were a team. And we, I think, convinced them to let's have peace and let's go and make trade deals. If we can make trade deals, we like that much better than nuclear weapons. And that was a great thing. And we did a good job with the Houthis. They stopped with the shooting of the ships. They like shooting ships.
Is that a done deal? Because there's been conflicting reports that some of their leaders are saying, oh, that's not true.
Well, it is with respect to America. Now, you know, you can't always count on somebody necessarily telling the truth, but their surrogates were very strong, very powerful, very good relationship with them. You know, they're tough fighters. They can take a lot of punishment, but with respect to America, they say it's true. So we'll see. You'll know. You'll be the first to know, won't you?
I follow the news closely. I read everything. I think the biggest surprise from this weekend, it was a week ago Friday, where I saw that China announced, quote, if the president is serious, we will be willing to negotiate with him. And Scott Bessent, your Treasury Secretary, met with their representatives in Geneva on Saturday. On Monday, you're announcing a trade, well, actually on Sunday, you announced a deal with China.
Yeah.
How did that happen that quickly?
Well, they met on Saturday and Sunday, and they had a deal pretty much from the beginning. It was the concept of a deal. And, you know, one of the things that, as you know, it's sort of a 90-day deal as we negotiate other aspects. But one of the things I think that could be most exciting for us and also for China is that we're trying to open up China. Because, as you know, many years ago, we opened up the USA. Now it's time for China to open up, and that's part of our deal. And we're going to open up China. To me, that's the most exciting part. But, yeah, we made a deal. The relationship is very good. I've always had a good relationship with President Xi. It was interrupted because of COVID, obviously. But outside of that, I've always had a great relationship, a lot of respect for him. And we'll see how that all works out. But we have the confines of a very, very strong deal with China. But the most exciting part of the deal, it was mentioned, but we don't talk about it yet. That's the opening up of China to U.S. business. And that would be like opening up a whole new world. And I think it would be even better for China. So I think we'll be able to make that deal, I hope.
At any point, do you foresee yourself dealing directly with President Xi on the final details of this deal?
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I'm not sure that it'll be necessary, but that happened with the UK. We were close to a deal, but we needed 1 point or 2 points on pork and ethanol. Okay, two very different subjects. And I called up the Prime Minister, who's an excellent man, Keir, excellent man. And within about 3 minutes, it was over. We made the deal. It was a good deal for everybody. And we have a lot of deals now. We have a lot of trade deals that I'd say virtually everybody wants to make a deal.
When I first saw you, and thank you for letting us cover this and report on this from Air Force One. When I first saw you, I think you were more excited. You were excited about the China deal, but prescription drugs, which has been very, very painful for a lot of Americans. 80% of medications are created in America, and then we end up paying more for those medications. Foreign countries do not pay as much as we do. You said that is over. Can you explain why this is such a big deal?
Well, for many years, we were taken advantage of by other countries and the drug companies, but I blame the other countries in a way more, the European Union, etc. They were very nasty and very tough to the drug companies, and they would give them a very low price for drug costs in the European nations. And when that price was given, that was it. They wouldn't negotiate. They said, let America pay for the difference. And this happened all over the world with other countries. And we had stupid people leading us, and especially over the last 4 years. And they wouldn't do anything about it. And it turned out that we were paying, and sometimes you saw 10 times more for the same drug. Same drug, same company, same plant where they make it, laboratory. And it got to a point where I said, we're not going to do this anymore. The pharmaceutical industry is very powerful, and probably the most powerful, considered the most powerful lobby. And the Democrats were making it impossible to lower drug prices. They knew what they were doing. And I instituted a most favored nations provision or concept where we're going to pay whatever the lowest country pays in the world. So if it's the UK, which pays very low, and any country, it could be any country, whatever the lowest price is. And the drug companies have accepted it, everybody accepts it, but the Democrats never wanted to play ball. They never wanted to do anything. It's the Democrats' fault that people were being ripped off for years and years. And now I hear Democrats saying, oh, well, we're going to now go for the bill. It's going to be very hard for them not to approve the big, beautiful bill that we're doing. We're doing the biggest tax cuts in the history of our country, because people are going to be getting a 50 to a 90% reduction in drug prices, not a 0.5%. I remember when I would fight so hard to get a 0.5 point, and I actually had it down a 0.5 point for 1 year, and I was so proud of myself because that never happened before. It was always going up. Drugs only went in one direction, that's up. And now, after studying the industry, it's a very complex industry, but I figured it out, and I said, it's not going to happen. But the Democrats fought very hard to keep the prices of drugs very, very high. They really are to blame for this, because they should have done something about it. And when the Republicans went with requests, they said, we're not going to approve it. And now we have a unified Republican Party. But I think the Democrats are going to approve this bill, too, because how are they going to reject a 60, 70, 80% drug cut? I don't think they can.
Yes, I think it's going to be huge. The fact that these drugs are, the creation of these drugs, I mean, these companies have to go through a very arduous process to get approval by the government. They spend billions of dollars, and put aside whether or not, quote, people demonize big pharma. That's separate and apart. However, we usually end up creating them, and then we end up paying 10 times more, which is crazy.
Well, they used to use that, if I could interrupt, they used to use that as a reason why we were paying 5 and 10 times more than other countries. They said because of research and development. And I'd always say, well, what about you doing research and development for the rest of the world too? Why are we paying for 100%? So we paid 100% for research and development, which, along with other things, believe it or not, raised the price to a point where you were 5 to 10 times higher than the rest of the world. And I told the story today. It was well received. A friend of mine who's slightly overweight, to put it mildly, went to a drugstore in London, and he was able to get one of the fat shots. I call it the fat shot, the jabs that you lose weight.
A lot of people laugh at that. Some people get offended by. I don't get offended by it.
I'm just glad I didn't use his name. He's actually a very rich guy. He's a very successful guy.
He's glad you didn't use his name.
No, he's very happy. He knows exactly who I was talking about. He called. He said, That was interesting. He said he was very concerned that I might use his name. It might slip. No, he doesn't have to worry. But he went to London and he bought this
Ozempic, Wegovy, one of those?
I guess, yeah, I'm not sure which one. But he bought one of them, maybe Ozempic. And he bought it and he called me. He said, hey, strange thing happened. I just bought a drug. Same company, same plant, same everything. Everything was the same. In one case, I paid in New York $1,300, and in London, I'm paying $88. He said, what's going on? Now, he knew nothing. He's a very smart guy. He's a very rich guy. His big problem is he's seriously overweight. But I don't think the drug worked, okay, to be honest with you. But it makes him feel good anyway. But so what happens is he said to me, I paid $88 in New York. I get it for $1,300 or something. A massive difference. And I said, that's right. The drug laws are very screwed up, and I'm doing something about it. He said, you better, because this is crazy. He didn't understand it, but he didn't understand why. And now he understands why, because he watched our news conference this morning, holding his breath, right? But he watched his news conference. But think of it. So he goes to London, and a lot of people go shopping in nearby or even far away countries, and they'll go away once a month or once a week or something. If it's a nearby country, they'll go right across the border and they'll buy the same drug for 1/10 the price as we pay in the United States. And a part of it is the power of the drug companies, which is a very big power. But I think a bigger part is the ruthlessness of other nations to screw the United States of America. And the European Union would be the top because they represent a lot of countries, and they're brutal. And according to the drug companies told me this, they're brutal in negotiations. They say, this is what we're going to pay. We're not going to pay any more. And if you need more, you get it from America. And so they get a low price, and we get a high price. And I ended it. And this has been going on for many years, but nobody realized that you could do. I think I figured out the system. Very complex chain of events take place, and I ended it. And I have to say, the drug companies were great. They were great. They said, look, it's time. They actually looked, they said, it's time.
And coming up, more of my exclusive interview with President Trump aboard.
Okay, we'll turn that off for a minute. Let me turn that off. Go get rid of that. We'll get rid of that. Why in the world is that doing that? That's okay. Whatever. All right. First of all, it's not just the Democrats. I said this when he was talking. Of course, you guys know me. I don't want to talk over when we're doing stuff like this. We're going to hear it out, and we'll have some snide comments and stuff like that during it, but I don't want to overtalk what is being presented. But no, it's not just the Democrats. We talked about this before we had the whole interview, and we were showing Hannity. You have the House and the Senate right now. Go and do it. But no, your Congress refuses. John Thune is refusing to really do anything because he says it won't work. It won't pass. Okay. No, you need to be putting it on the table, and let's get everybody to actually vote on it, yay or nay, so people actually know who their representatives on, if they're actually going to listen to them or not. When we don't actually vote, you are bailing Congress out from being held accountable by their constituents. You are giving them an out, because the ones that just want to sit there quietly, twiddling their thumbs or talking about other things, but backed by big pharma, they don't have to make a vote and expose themselves. So they're happy when it's done in an executive order. They're happy when Congress isn't actually bringing it to actually be voted on. Because if they were to vote against it, they then have to answer to their constituents. Are all of you guys hip to this game now? Executive orders are evil in this way. It's hiding the problem, and you're not able to hold your elected representatives accountable that are supposed to be representing you. This is another problem being exposed by doing all of this via executive order. We haven't had a presidency just have to keep doing this EO after EO after EO like we're seeing right now. And of course, we have had a lot of executive orders signed, but this is the only way Trump can do anything that he's talking about doing. This is where the country is failing Americans. I don't care what Donald Trump says there. in this situation, Donald Trump is saying all of this great things, but notice that he only blamed the Democrats. Only blamed the Democrats. They're not the only ones with this problem. If Andy, you were commenting about how he always says the truth or whatever you said, whatever the comment was. Why isn't he calling out Mike Johnson for not putting bills on the table and getting things done? Why is he not calling out John Thune, the other leader, to be able to get this done? He should be calling upon them, and I hate calling them leaders because they don't lead shit. They're not doing anything. They're not doing shit. And right now, this gravy train that everybody is happily living on because Donald Trump's president is only going to last for 3 years at this rate. And so all of this America first and America is so great. It's great for right now. Hope everybody's prepping because who knows what it's going to be like in a few years. We have to start getting Congress to vote on these and put these things in place. Jim Bob, what did Jim Bob say? I saw his comment. Let's see. Jim Bob says nobody in America First movement is giving anyone a pass in Congress. I beg to differ. Go and look at my comments. You can see them all day long. You just have to get out of the algorithm, and you're going to end up seeing that there's quite a few people, yes, calling him out like you're talking about, but there's a lot of people. Pam Bondi is one of them. A lot of people. We just need to give her time. How many times have we been told that? It's only been this long. It's only been this. It's only been that. We need to give them more time. No, we don't. If all of this talk of them actually came to some sort of benefit to Americans, we'd want it now. Now. They're still waiting. I'm keeping an eye on it right here. It's our job to call them out. Exactly, Jim Bob. And Rose, they both suck. Facts. David Mosgrip, literally prepping right now, loading magazines, repacking my truck bag. Good. Should be prepping every day, all day, every day. I honestly think that he's going to pull Mike Johnson. You can tell because let's go back to that comment real quick. Because he's not including him in a lot of conversations. But he keeps saying that Mike Johnson is doing a great job. He keeps saying that. He even said John Thune's doing a great job. Do you think that those two are doing a great job? If we want to give Trump kudos for speaking the truth, then he should be speaking the truth. Let's see what Hannity says. I think this... Oh, he's got more on his show.
UAE has committed 1.5 trillion. Saudi Arabia, 1 trillion. Apparently you had ordered a new Air Force One in your first term. They're years behind in terms of its production.
It's a Boeing. And when I came to office, the Obama people had ordered it, but they didn't sign yet. So I was supposed to sign. They were at about 5.7 trillion. It's actually, as you know, Air Force One is actually 2 Boeing 747s. And they had agreed to a price of 5.7 billion. And through a series of little negotiations, I got it down very, very substantially by a lot.
With the new design?
Well, it's pretty much the same plane with the new paint color, if you want to know the truth. We're painting it red, white, and blue like the American flag, which is incredible. Much more beautiful and much more representative of us. So anyway, I got the price way down by a lot and ordered it. And when I came, I said, the plane, where's the plane? And they said, it's late. And I said, why would it be late? You know, I went through a whole term and where we had an election that was absolutely rigged. And because of that, this is a much more historic presidency, I would say. But I said, where's the plane? And they are having difficulty. I'm not happy with Boeing, but we're going to work on Boeing. And Boeing's got some unbelievable people working for it. So I'm not going to do anything bad to Boeing. But they had a strong contract. I wrote the contract. It was a guaranteed price contract. And if I wanted to, I could, hurt Boeing. And I don't want to hurt Boeing. But they are very late with the plane. And Qatar heard about it. And he's a great leader. And we were talking. And he said, if I can help you, let me do that. And they had a plane. Not a new plane at all. But they had a plane. And you know, these planes, the plane that you're on right now is almost 40 years old.
Correct.
And when you land and you see Saudi Arabia and you see UAE and you see Qatar and you see all these, and they have these brand new Boeing 747s mostly, and you see ours next to it. This is like a totally different plane. It's much smaller, it's much less impressive as it is. And you know, we're the United States of America. I believe that we should have the most impressive plane. So anyway, so they said to me, we would like to, in effect, we would like to make a gift. You've done so many things, and we'd like to make a gift to the Defense Department, which is where it's going. And I said, well, that's nice. Now, some people say, oh, you shouldn't accept gifts for the country. My attitude is, why wouldn't I accept a gift? We're giving to everybody else. Why wouldn't I accept a gift? Because it's going to be a couple of years, I think, before the Boeings are finished. And they'll be wonderful when they're finished, but that's a long time.
Part of your argument how the United States has paid untold billions and trillions of dollars securing every aspect of the world.
Well, I said that. I said, you know, we've secured that part of the world for many years. So if somebody makes a gift, then I'm not getting, I get nothing. I get to fly it like any other president would. Ultimately, it'll be at the end of its lifetime or at the end of the term, because we're going to have the other ones in by that time.
So the U.S. is kind of giving them gifts. It's called national defense.
Yeah. No, well, we give a lot of gifts. We give too many gifts, to be honest with you. We give gifts to defend countries that wouldn't even exist. Many countries wouldn't even exist. All over the world, like countries wouldn't even exist. But I thought it was a beautiful gesture. Now, there are those that say we shouldn't be accepting gifts to the Defense Department. And I would say only a stupid person would say that. Why wouldn't we do that? And so it helps us out because we'll have a relatively new plane instead of having 40-year-old planes. These planes are 40 years old, and that's not representative of our country.
Let me go to the other side, and that's the national security equation. And I know every one of these countries that we will be stopping at here and we'll be reporting on this show, every one of them is worried about one country, and that is Iran. #1 state sponsor of terror. And obviously the Iranians, you've been very, very clear. They can't get a nuke.
Right.
They can't enrich. According to published reports, they could be 3 to 6 months away from being a nuclear power.
There won't be a nuclear power. Let me just explain. I'm all for Iran. I want them to have a wonderful country and make a lot of money. They have great oil reserves. But if you remember, when I was president, Iran was broke because I placed secondary sanctions, meaning you couldn't buy, if you bought oil, you couldn't deal with the United States. And people make a lot of money dealing with the United States. So basically, they weren't selling any oil to almost anybody. It was down to a trickle, almost nothing. And by the time it all came about, after a couple of years, they had no money. And they didn't have money for Hamas, they didn't have money for Hezbollah, they didn't have any money at all. And we had no threat. And when Biden came in, he took off the sanctions and he let them get very rich. And now they have $350 billion or more, which is a tremendous amount. They made great wealth. With oil, you make great money, great wealth quickly. And they have tremendous oil and tremendous reserves. And Biden freed them up from what I did.
And coming up, Louisiana Senator, our favorite Senator, John Kennedy, will join us with reaction to this historic Middle East trip. And we are in Riyadh. We're in Saudi Arabia. Also, Clay Travis tonight. Straight ahead.
So I take it that must be just part one. I don't know if we're going to see much more of the interview. Because like I mentioned, there's a couple other people that he was going to talk with on his show. And by the looks of it, there is barely 15-ish minutes left. So we'll see how that plays out. But let's talk about this plane. Let's talk about Boeing. Boeing has received a shitload of money, of taxpayer money, to be able to do things like just send astronauts to the International Space Station and return them safely. They did half the job, still got all of the money. We had to send SpaceX to go do to clean up their garbage and actually do their work. That is what Boeing does. We have all witnessed all of the shit that Boeing has been going through over the last couple years, and their planes and all of the issues with the door plugs flying off, landing gear that can't hang on. Like, yeah, you could say that is on maintenance on the airline company for sure. But when it comes down to these planes, the Air Force One is really old. It's like 40 years old, like he mentioned. The average airliner, commercial airliner, is usually looking at about 14 years old in the air. And so we're flying around our president and many other high-ranking officials in our country on a 40-year-old plane. So yeah, we should fix that. And yeah, you would think your number one customer would be your priority. But guess what? Your number one customer never complains. Even if you're late, they never complain. And you're always happy because guess what? You're going to take that money and you're going to get the money no matter what, whether the customer is happy or not. That is what Boeing is looking at this situation. The Boeing is looking at it and being like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to pull everything away from us because Boeing is in a too big to fail scenario. Why do you think Donald Trump did not want to ream into Boeing? He would bring that stock to zero tomorrow if he started talking all the shit like I am right now. If he was to say this, their stocks would be in the shitter tomorrow. And it would really hurt the company. And in my opinion, it should happen. We need to start saying the truth. And Boeing is epically failing and receiving millions, if not billions, of taxpayer dollars. Now, when it comes down to the whole situation of, yeah, Donald Trump got the whole deal done for the plane in his first presidency, and it's still not delivered, which is absolutely insane. I wouldn't expect Joe Biden to deliver on it or to make sure it happens. Not at all, because Joe Biden knew that he probably wouldn't be alive to even see it. But overall, when it comes to Boeing and how he was defending them is just completely wrong. Completely wrong. We shouldn't be defending Boeing at all. They need to be flat out chewed out and everything exposed so they can actually be held accountable and other companies can take the money and go to somewhere else. Like go to Airbus. Go whatever company makes Airbus. Buy their planes. But that wouldn't be America first, would it? If we were buying Airbus planes, which by the way, I usually prefer to be on an Airbus plane. When I do fly, I hate flying, but Airbus planes, I'll take them. They definitely didn't fall out of the sky like Boeing's do. But when it comes down to this entire thing, our government and the deal with Boeing, everybody keeps saying Donald Trump is telling the truth. Donald Trump is saying the right things. Why can't he say the truth about Boeing? Is it just because of the stocks? Is that meaning that he is either trying to save the company from really getting screwed over from the stock market? Or is it a special interest? I pose that question to all of you guys. Because I wouldn't take that answer from a normal politician. I would be like, okay, so how much did Boeing donate to you? How much did Boeing donate to your campaign? You should be asking the same questions about the president. But yeah, it looks like the interview is probably over. I'm going to give it a second. Yeah, we got Senator Kennedy on the screen here. So the interview is over. So we're done with that. I'm not surprised by anything in the interview. The interview was kind of bland and boring. I wasn't expecting anything crazy, but I do have to say that it is disappointing that he wouldn't call out Boeing for their epic failure and really, really call it out. He should. He wants Boeing to do the right thing. I agree, Jim Bob. I agree. He wants them to, but we're talking Boeing is receiving just as much money from the government as any military organization. Northrop Grumman, you got, who is it? The others. It doesn't matter. All of them. They're all receiving a shitload of money from the government and they can't deliver on a couple planes on time. Hold them accountable. actually do something. And I don't think that they're going to step up and do the right thing. We're talking about a company that just knows Donald Trump's only here through 2028. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. That's the problem. That's how this whole show started tonight. Everything is temporary right now under Donald Trump. Nothing is permanent. And nothing is actually going to say that we're going to get any benefit from this from the long term. You have kids or grandkids. Right now, they are not receiving any benefit from Donald Trump being elected in 2024. They're not. Let's be honest. We are not America first right now. We're not serving America first. We're doing things for the short term. We're not doing anything for the long term at the moment. But overall, guys, that's my show. I know I had a few rants in there, and I'm frustrated on this topic because it's really sad that we're saying America is winning, but I don't see it. I don't see how America is winning in these scenarios. If you guys see it, and I'm not, please send it to me. But I don't understand how America is winning when this is right now. We're making a deal that will all be reverted back, and guess what? All of these companies will jack up their prices to make up their losses, just like we saw during COVID. During COVID, everybody had to make up the prices for what they lost out on. And so prices went up right as everything started back opening up again. Prices went up. We're going to see that same thing if we don't get Congress to actually start codifying these laws. Congress needs to start acting. They're probably not. So what is our next course of action? We talked about that earlier. The next course of action is we have to be engaged locally. We have to start getting people that will fight against the federal government and put the power back into our states and building our communities the way we should. That is our main way we can fight and push back into this scenario. Trying to vote our way out from a federal level at the top down is not going to work. But I'll leave you guys on that. You guys have a good night. Thanks for tuning in with me, and we will talk to you later.